Chapter 11:11 One Person, One City. The three heads of the Dragon King roared crazily. His voice was full of grief and pain. No one knew what he had experienced. That was why he hated Zhang Yi so much that he was willing to fight Zhang Yi to death. The first head of the Dragon King suddenly sprayed a shock wave towards the earth. Earth rumbling. The earth with him as the center suddenly collapsed, and the earth and rocks shot up into the sky like spikes, turning into a huge stone wave and rushing straight towards Zhang Yi and the shelter behind him. With one blow, the earth several kilometers around the Dragon King instantly collapsed and sank, and the offensive continued to spread around. If the shelter was hit, the underground soil and rock layer would collapse, and even if it had a solid defense, it would be buried by the earth and rocks. But this move, Zhang Yi's dimensional gate, could not defend. Zhang Yi's eyes turned cold. Since the negotiation failed, let's fight. He took out the horizontal sword with his right hand, and the dark void power wrapped around it, turning it into a long and narrow sword. My ability is called Absolute Defense. In the Ypsilon realm, it is said that one person can destroy a city, and I can defend a city alone. With me here, no one can destroy Tianhai City. Zhang Yi cut across with a knife, and the black blade light cut a huge crack more than 10 kilometers long from east to west in Tianhai City.
Boom.
The earth broke open and was split in half, revealing a rift nearly 1,000 meters deep. The earth rumbling of the Dragon King stopped here, and a large amount of earth and rocks rolled into the rift, unable to spread forward. At this time, the second head of the Dragon King also launched an attack. Sea tide. A dragon roar resounded through the world, and the endless tide that had crushed the offshore ice behind him and reached Tianhai City surged like boiling water. The sea water rose and instantly reached a height of hundreds of meters, even close to the height of the Dragon King's body. The huge water wall actually spread out for dozens of miles, as if it was going to submerge the entire Tianhai City. Annihilation. Boom. A large amount of seawater rushed forward and rushed towards Zhang Yi's shelter. Zhang Yi spread his arms. All things in the world. 3,000 worlds. Invisible dimensional doors open up in Xishan district. At the beginning, the two worlds were determined to protect Zhang Yi's body. But today, he can protect a world. After the Ypsilon realm, his alien space also expanded its domain and could absorb a large amount of seawater. After these seawaters poured into the alien space, there was no trend of filling up at all, and they kept sinking into it. Physical attacks don't mean much to me, Zhang Yi said lightly. Tianlong Wang said hey, and a cunning and vicious look flashed in his eyes. This move is not that simple. Behind the waves, more than a dozen warships and thousands of pirates rushed into Tianhai City shouting and killing. The main guns of the warships were aimed at the shelter and began to bombard it wildly, with a roar that shook the sky. At this time, Zhang Yi had to stop the Dragon King. Even if he spent any energy to deal with the scattered warships, it would leave room for the Dragon King. I said, I can't kill you, but I can destroy everything you have. The Dragon King roared. You think too simply. Tianhai City is not all trash except me, Zhang Yi said lightly. In the shelter, a beast roared loudly. A huge black beast flapped its wings and took off. It swelled against the wind and soon turned into a huge size of dozens of meters. The sharp black hair all over its body was as sharp as steel needles. Hua flapped its wings and took off. It opened its mouth and shot out an atomic breath, which wiped out hundreds of pirates on a warship. It flapped its wings, and its body was as fast as an afterimage, and came to the middle of the other two warships. Then Hua opened its huge mouth, and a huge black hole formed in front of its mouth. The powerful suction directly dragged both warships over. The pirates' attacks had no effect on Hua. In terms of defense, Hua's body defense ability was the best in the entire Tianhai City. Two warships, including hundreds of pirates, were directly devoured by Hua. Then the power of flesh and blood filled its own superpowers. This is Hua's ability, gluttony. The swallowed enemies can be transformed into its own superpowers. From this point of view, as long as it can continue to kill enemies, it will never feel tired. This is the power of the beast. The three heads of the Qinling king gritted their teeth, spurting out hot air waves from their mouths, and ambergris flowed out from the corners of their mouths. He didn't expect Zhang Yi to have such a backup. So what? Even if I die today, I will drag you to hell with me. I will perish with you. The three-headed dragon roared and rushed towards Zhang Yi. The third head roared, and the thunder in the sky roared wildly, and a terrifying scene appeared. In the sky, falling lightning turned into spherical flashes. Lightning raining down on Zhang Yi, each carrying an incredibly amazing force. And the body of the Dragon King, even more so, rushed over with a terrifying might that could destroy everything. The Dragon King is a hero with great potential. He has extremely powerful abilities in both close combat and long-range combat. It's a pity that he does not belong to any big power, and he does not have the good luck of Zhang Yi. Otherwise, his achievements might not be much worse than Zhang Yi's. But life is like this, and luck is also part of strength. All things follow the traces. All things in the world. Zhang Yi did not dare to be arrogant in the face of the Dragon King. Although his defense is extremely strong, at this time, he can't be as comfortable as before, because the Dragon King really came to fight him to the death. Moreover, this guy is completely rogue. If he can't kill Zhang Yi, he will destroy the home that Zhang Yi is guarding behind him. The dimensional gate has to withstand the huge tsunami on the one hand and the spherical lightning that keeps falling from the sky on the other. And in front, the three-headed dragon rushed over directly. The void in Zhang Yi's right eye began to twist. Facing the three-headed dragon in front of him, he released his strongest short-range killing move, God Destruction. In the twisted space, everything was like a crumpled rag. The indestructible body of the Dragon King also encountered great resistance and was forcibly shaken away for thousands of meters. Finally, plop, he fell into the sea. At the moment, all this made Zhang Yi a little strenuous to deal with. Zhang Yi couldn't help but feel a little scared in his heart. If he hadn't caught the insect master, got some information from him, and set up today's situation, then what consequences would the Dragon King's attack cause? Zhang Yi couldn't imagine it at all. But fortunately, his preparations were thorough enough. In the shelter, Lu Kuo ran and Uncle Yu controlled the machine together. According to Zhang Yi's instructions, they caught this opportunity.
Ding!
Lu Kuo took a deep breath and pressed the button in his hand. On the second floor of the shelter, the top of a room suddenly opened to both sides, and then a silver gun barrel more than 10 meters long protruded from it. It aimed at the Dragon King in midair, suddenly let out an earth-shaking roar, and then violently sprayed out a white light that pierced the sky. Chapter 11-12 Tianhai Fortress. The Dragon King, who was hit by Zhang Yi's divine destruction and fell into the ocean, was caught off guard by the powerful laser. Even his body, which was as tough as steel, was seriously injured at this time. Seeing the scene, Lu Karen's eyes were filled with excitement. This is the latest weapon technology that Zhang Yi obtained from Blizzard City. It was originally used on the city defense cannon and has extremely powerful power. Now, after her transformation, it has become one of the strongest fortifications of the shelter. She calls it the Tianhai Cannon, and the shelter naturally became the Tianhai Fortress. As Zhang Yi's strength becomes stronger, the level of opponents he needs to face is also increasing. Then it is very necessary to improve the defense level of the shelter. The huge and terrifying body of the Dragon King, like steel, rolled in the waves and then quickly soared into the air, and 3 huge heads roared. Although this attack did not cause much damage to him, if he cooperated with Zhang Yi and was hit by him suddenly, it would still be a trouble. Not to mention, Zhang Yi also has a big cat named Hua with a supernatural power index of 9,800 points. If these things attack him when he is fighting with Zhang Yi to death and exhausted, it will definitely pose a huge threat to him. He came to fight Zhang Yi to death, not to die. The eyes of the Dragon King suddenly shook, and suddenly, he roared at Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi, if you have the ability, Come and fight me one-on-one. If you don't come, from now on I will continue to harass Tianhai City and make you unable to leave Tianhai City for the rest of your life." After saying that, he took off into the air and flew towards the endless ocean. Zhang Yi's mouth curled up slightly. "Okay, do you really think I'm not your opponent?" After leaving the scope of Tianhai City, it was also a good thing for Zhang Yi. At least he was less restrained. His figure flashed in the air, and after a few setbacks, he appeared above the sea. It was a snowstorm night, with strong winds, surging seas, endless waves roaring up into the sky, and thunder rumbled in the sky. The huge black body of the Dragon King hovered in the air, and the three heads stared at Zhang Yi with angry eyes. Suddenly, the three heads opened their bloody mouths at the same time. 3 light balls of different colors condensed in its mouths, and in an instant they turned into 3 amazing energy roars, heading straight for Zhang Yi. Earth rumbling, sea tide, thunderstorm. Zhang Yi opened his arms, and countless doors of different dimensions opened around him. Morning in the sky. Boom! 3 terrifying energy waves shot into Zhang Yi's different space. This unparalleled power was so strong that it could not be rebounded in a short time, and could only be forcibly absorbed. However, the title of Absolute Defense was not a joke. Although the Dragon King was promoted to Ypsilon, his lethality was far from enough to penetrate Zhang Yi's defense. So he couldn't break Zhang Yi's defense. The attack of 3 energy waves is the strongest power it can use at present. After a moment, this power was completely swallowed up by the alien space. But the capacity of this power is far from reaching Zhang Yi's limit. At this moment, Zhang Yi stretched out his hand and slowly took out a dark silver sniper rifle more than 2 meters long from the void. After Liu Karen's transformation, his Lei Li and Bai Xiao can already withstand his current power. All the gun bodies have been changed to adamantium, and the bullets have also been replaced with new holy silver bullets. Hot weapons have not been absent in the battle of high-level aliens. The power of technology is also playing its due role at a higher level. Guns. The moment Tian Longwang saw Zhang Yi take out the big gun, his eyes showed a puzzled look. At their current level, no matter how fast the bullet is, it can't catch up with his flying speed. But he didn't care because he knew that Zhang Yi was definitely not a person who would do stupid things. Zhang Yi raised the sniper rifle in his hand and said lightly, "Next, it's hunting time." He held the thunderbolt in his arms, and there was no need to deliberately raise it to aim, just like holding a huge machine gun in his hand. On the body of the thunderbolt, a black light flashed from the position of Zhang Yi's arm, and instantly spread to the whole body of the gun. Zhang Yi did not look forward, but just pulled the trigger casually. The next moment, a silver light directly penetrated the space, and came to the front of the Dragon King at an unimaginable speed. The pupils of the Dragon King suddenly shrank. This speed was far beyond the comparison of any firearm he understood. He did not know the power of the shot, and did not dare to take it hard. His huge body shook violently in the air, and even the air had a deafening sonic boom. He was trying to avoid the shot. In the blink of an eye, his body dodged the trajectory of the shot, but something unexpected happened. His huge body suddenly felt a pain, and when the Dragon King lowered his head to look, he suddenly found a hole the size of a bucket in his body. Blood was flowing out of the hole. How is this possible? The Dragon King widened his eyes, unable to believe what he saw. He had clearly dodged the bullet, but why did he still get hit? Zhang Yi calmly pulled the trigger again. "This is my new skill. I call it Destined Reincarnation." Another shot was fired, and the white laser locked onto the Dragon King, like the god of death. He tried to dodge again, but no matter what, he could not escape Zhang Yi's attack, and another cut was made on his body. The Dragon King was completely furious, and he stirred up an endless tsunami, sweeping towards Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi was motionless in midair. No matter how turbulent the waves were, they all entered Zhang Yi's space, and then were expelled from another direction by Zhang Yi and released back into the sea. And he continued to pull the trigger. That was an extremely contemptuous expression, because Zhang Yi would never aim at the Dragon King from beginning to end. The bullet seemed to have eyes and tracked the Dragon King. No matter how fast the Dragon King was, he would be caught by this bullet. Bang! 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 A dozen bullet holes soon appeared on the huge body of the Dragon King. Although these injuries were not fatal to its huge body, the damned Zhang Yi actually added a deadly poison to the bullet. This is a bullet specially prepared for hunting strong people. When the bullet hits a hard enough object, the inner layer will automatically crack, and then the toxin inside will immediately pour out and merge into the target's blood. A lot of ants can bite an elephant to death. If there are too many of these bullets, it will also have a significant impact on the Dragon King. Chapter 11:13. Did I Let You Go? Tianlong Wang suffered a great loss at the hands of Zhang Yi. At this time, he already understood that he was completely at a disadvantage. Zhang Yi had prepared for his attack long ago. Now, Zhang Yi has set up a Dragon Gate formation in Tianhai City, waiting for him to attack. Fighting in Tianhai City, he needs to face the harassment of Tianhai cannons and the Big Cat. But coming to the sea for a battle, he will not gain any advantage, but will make Zhang Yi worry-free. Tianlong Wang roared in a low voice, "Zhang Yi, don't you even care about your wife giving birth?" Zhang Yi put on a brand new magazine and said calmly, "At this time, you still believe in such nonsense. You deserve to be like this now. Your cognition is worthy of your current situation." Although Tianlong Wang had expected it in his heart, he was unwilling to admit it, because this information was exchanged for his men with their lives. Who would doubt that his men used their lives to pass false information to the enemy? But Zhang Yi's words made him completely accept the reality. He was fooled by Zhang Yi. Once again, he was fooled by Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi. Tianlong King roared, but what greeted him was Zhang Yi's ruthless bullets. Tianlong King was unwilling to fail like this. He triggered a tsunami, summoned endless spherical lightning from the sky, and launched a fierce attack on Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi did not dodge or evade. He adopted the simplest fighting method, which was to use his strong defense to fight against Tianlong King. Tianlong King's attack had no effect on him. Although Zhang Yi's bullets were not very lethal to Tianlong King, they were stable. As long as it continued, Tianlong King would be worn out sooner or later. However, Tianlong King was not a fool. After fighting again and again, he finally noticed the weirdness of Zhang Yi's bullets. The reason why his bullets could change their trajectory in midair was that every time the bullet was fired, it would suddenly disappear in midair and then shoot out from another direction. Destined Reincarnation is a new skill that Zhang Yi developed after getting a new weapon. It is called a new skill, but it is just a new way of using the two abilities of the left eye, time, and the right eye, space. Tracking all things can predict the opponent's movement trajectory within 2 seconds. However, after the bullet is fired, it can no longer change direction, so the opponent can still dodge in advance. Therefore, Zhang Yi combined the abilities of tracking all things and Dimension Gate. When the bullet is fired, the direction it aims at is the opponent's location. However, in the middle of the bullet's flight, at the 3-kilometer limit of the Dimension Gate, a pair of Dimension Gates are added. The bullet changes direction after passing through the Dimension Gate, which actually changes the bullet's trajectory, so as to aim and predict the landing point of the opponent's dodge. Since the two occur at the same time, and the acceleration of the bullet has been completed at this time, considering the instinctive reaction of humans, it is not believed that the bullet can turn in the air. So, the opponent has no time to react. This is called gunfighting. When the Dragon King realized this, he could not make any response in a short time, because Zhang Yi predicted his prediction. But with his brain, it is impossible for him to predict that Zhang Yi predicted his prediction at this time. It sounds a bit messy, but in fact the situation on the scene is more complicated. Some things you understand, but you don't know how to deal with them. Zhang Yi. He shouted Zhang Yi's name angrily, and the three heads sprayed high-energy particle beams again. But he overestimated his own strength. Even the atomic breath of Xuanwu and the super-original water of Catalyze could not break through Zhang Yi's face, let alone the current Tianlong King. In order to prevent the power from affecting Tianhai City behind him, Zhang Yi chose to take over all the power of Tianlong King. But after this majestic power entered the space, It couldn't even cause a ripple. Zhang Yi kept changing bullets and then attacked Tianlong King. Such a battle looks boring, and there is no fancy at all. At this time, Zhang Yi is like a ruthless tower defense machine, spending time to grind a boss-level monster to death. However, only Zhang Yi and his family in the shelter know how dangerous this battle is. If we hadn't captured the insect master and forced him to reveal the Heavenly Dragon King, so as to prepare in advance, then today, even if Zhang Yi would be fine, the shelter would still be at risk of being destroyed. The Heavenly Dragon King roared in pain. I thought I was strong enough after my promotion to Ypsilon. Even if I couldn't kill you, a despicable guy, I could still cause you great pain. But why? Why did I still fail? Zhang Yi. You wait. This matter is not over. It will not end. I will always be in your nightmare, staring at you. The Heavenly Dragon King has realized that his power cannot penetrate Zhang Yi's defense. But as a Dragon King who is both offensive and defensive, Zhang Yi has no way to deal with him in a short period of time. The combination of Thunderbolt and Holy Silver bullets can indeed break his defense, but it can't kill him. Even if the Dragon King wanted to fight Zhang Yi's life was too tough, so he couldn't fight. His 3 huge heads glared at Zhang Yi, and then suddenly dived into the sea. Dragons swim in the sea, and the ocean is also his home. As a noble dragon, he can come and go freely in the sky, underground, and in the sea. And he was sure that Zhang Yi would not dare to go underwater to chase him. Zhang Yi sighed. You boasted loudly when you came, but you still ran away? Li Fengxian, you are really a waste. You deserve that everyone around you died, and you have become the ghost you are now. The voice was deliberately amplified through the loudspeaker so that the Dragon King could hear it clearly. The Dragon King was biting his teeth to pieces, but he didn't fall for it. A gentleman's revenge is never too late. Just wait for me. I will make your Tianhai city never peaceful. Zhang Yi looked at the sea under his feet. The huge shadow hundreds of meters long was full of oppression. Did I allow you to go? The next moment, he teleported 3,000 meters and entered the sea. Thanks to the previous voyage, he has mastered the skills of fighting under the sea water, relying on the alien space. No matter how fast the Tianlong King is, he can't be faster than Zhang Yi, who can travel through space. Soon, Zhang Yi caught up with the Tianlong King. He silently raised the thunder in his hand. The Tianlong King's pupils shrank suddenly. Are you done yet? If Zhang Yi really fought with him, it would be fine, but what Zhang Yi did now was like a person who kept stabbing you with a needle. Although it is not fatal, it really hurts. And you can't avoid this needle that stabs you. Zhang Yi, you were Rome Mama in your previous life. Chapter 11:14 Halberd of Destruction. What the Dragon King didn't expect was that Zhang Yi could enter the water, and after entering the water, his speed was faster than his. Yes, Zhang Yi was not good at swimming, but the problem was that he teleported directly. Dragon King, why are you running? Are you so timid? You might as well change your name to the King of Escape in the future. Weren't you very arrogant at the beginning? Why are you so cowardly now? Useless trash, I thought you were great. Zhang Yi attacked and humiliated the Dragon King. As a pirate king, when has the Dragon King ever been so humiliated? Facing Zhang Yi's humiliation, he couldn't help but turn back and fired a high-energy particle cannon. But all this was like an itch for Zhang Yi, and it couldn't break Zhang Yi's defense at all. No matter how fast he swam, he couldn't get rid of Zhang Yi's attack. The Dragon King was really anxious and began to swim into the deep sea. Zhang Yi, don't chase me anymore. Otherwise, if you enter the deep sea, you will encounter unimaginable horror. The Dragon King threatened fiercely. In fact, he didn't know what existed in the deep sea. Just out of the instinct of marine life, he could realize that there must be something in the endless deep sea that frightened him from the bottom of his soul. Zhang Yi did not answer. If the Dragon King was released today, Tianhai City would never have peace from now on. He raised the thunderbolt with both hands and replaced the bullets again. The dark power of the void continued to emerge behind him like a strange demon released from the abyss. The black tentacles spread to Zhang Yi's body and then continued to flow into the thunderbolt along his arms. A majestic force began to slowly gather. This is the most powerful attack force that Zhang Yi has mastered now, the power from the void. The Dragon King felt the horror of this power. His pupils suddenly shrank, and he began to swim faster towards the deep sea. After a few seconds of charging, Zhang Yi had turned into a terrible black hole in the deep sea. The extremely dark power of the void can devour everything around. The Dragon King couldn't help but look back and saw that behind him, like an eclipse, a circular area of several kilometers in radius appeared. The light lingered outside this area and could not penetrate. Spear of Destruction. A terrifying force, like the void snake god, gushed out from the muzzle of Li's gun. Even from the outside, it was hard to imagine that such a huge and terrifying thing could emerge from a gun that was more than 2 meters long. A dark war halberd that was hundreds of meters long appeared silently, and in an instant, the surrounding sea water was turned into nothingness. The Dragon King felt the fatal fear, but just as he couldn't avoid Zhang Yi's holy silver bullet, he couldn't predict the trajectory of this attack at all. What should I do? What should I do? What should I do? What should I do? The Dragon King's brain was completely shrouded in fear at this time. He didn't know how to deal with this situation, at a loss. But the Dark War halberd didn't give him time to think. It had silently cleared a large area of nothingness in the deep sea and came behind him. The Dragon King turned around and burst out with all his strength. The three heads spewed out high-energy particle beams at the same time. Earth rumbling. Sea tide. Thunderstorm. The three surging forces converged into one, and the colorful three-color light column collided fiercely with the black halberd. There was no terrifying shockwave, just the annihilation of the high-energy particle beam by the void power. The dark halberd was like a black hole, silently swallowing everything in front of it. When the black halberd came in front of the Qinling King, half of its power had been offset, but it still hit his body firmly. The dark armor of the Qinling King, which was like tempered steel, shattered inch by inch, revealing his flesh and bones. Puff, puff, puff. Large pieces of flesh and blood exploded in the deep sea, dyeing the entire sea red. The body of the Qinling King was hit hard and flew away, and this blow left him seriously injured. The Qinling King endured the severe pain, and he suddenly felt that his body was obviously uncomfortable. His movement speed just now slowed down. What did you do to me?" he shouted at Zhang Yi angrily. Zhang Yi remained silent, and took out a piece of cake from the alien space and stuffed it into his mouth. After Yang Xia's ability was improved, the superpowers that could be replenished for him also increased. But now, Zhang Yi's appetite has also increased. After every battle, he needs to eat a lot. The replenishment of superpowers is very magical. After every battle, his body will slowly recover its strength. Zhang Yi doesn't know where this strength comes from, but the hunger in his stomach is real, and he must eat a lot. If it weren't for the fact that there were enough supplies stored at home, and a large amount of supplies obtained from the Jiangnan region, I'm afraid it won't take long for him to eat up the entire Tianhai city. Tianlong Wang's body showed obvious abnormalities. That is because the bullet Zhang Yi fired actually contained not ordinary toxins, but neurotoxins. Zhang Yi had not expected to kill the Dragon King with bullets. However, the neurotoxins would spread with the blood, and in the fierce battle between the two, they would infect the Dragon King's whole body. His body became paralyzed and inconvenient to move. This attack was also very consuming for Zhang Yi. But it was obviously very successful because the Dragon King had been severely injured. However, the vitality of the Epsilon-level aliens, especially the divine beasts like the Dragon King, was too tenacious. Even though he looked scarred, he was not fatal. He flicked his tail and swam fiercely into the deep sea. How could Zhang Yi let him go? Although I am not strong in terms of attack ability, but in terms of sticking ability, if I rank second in the world, no one dares to rank first. It was not a good feeling to be targeted by a space alien. Zhang Yi quickly shuttled over and soon came to the front of the Dragon King. The Dragon King suddenly turned around, opened the huge mouth of his head, and bit towards Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi instantly opened the dimensional gate, and the dragon head sank into it. However, the Dragon King was also prepared for Zhang Yi's tricks. As long as the entire body was not immersed in the alien space, Zhang Yi could not actively absorb the creatures into it. So the Dragon King quickly pulled away, and then his tail slammed towards Zhang Yi's back. But this move was also blocked by the dimensional gate. I said, "Your attack methods are useless to me." Zhang Yi had already grasped the strength of the Dragon King at this time. According to the superpower index, he was about 11,000 to 12,000 points. But now Zhang Yi has completely absorbed the origin of the soul-destroying, reaching the level of 14,000 points. No matter how strong the Dragon King's attack power is, it cannot overcome the gap between the two. Chapter 11:15 Prophecy. The Dragon King gnashed his teeth and continued to flee towards the deep sea. Zhang Yi kept shooting, paralyzing him with his nerve speed, and eating a lot to replenish his superpowers. Then, the second Spear of Destruction was also ready. The Dragon King saw through the principle of Zhang Yi's attack, but seeing through it does not mean there is a way to resolve it. Unsurprisingly, he was hit hard again by this move that was almost a headlock attack. The deep sea was filled with blood mist, and the surrounding area had been surrounded by terrifying and twisted giant mutant sea beasts for a long time. But they were afraid of the pressure from Zhang Yi and the Dragon King, and dared not approach. But once the Dragon King showed any sign of fatigue, they would rush over desperately and devour the flesh and blood of the Dragon King. The flesh and blood of Epsilon-level creatures is the best food for their evolution, and it has a fatal temptation from the depths of their souls. However, the Dragon King still did not die, but a large amount of neurotoxins made him move more slowly as his body became weak. Ahem. Zhang Yi, you can't kill me. You can't kill me. Tianlong Wang roared. Zhang Yi sighed. It's already this time. Why are you showing off? Tianlong Wang's speed completely slowed down, and Zhang Yi finally came close to him. 3 kilometers in radius, this is Zhang Yi's Sunluo Wanxiang domain. Countless gates unfolded in this world, completely blocking all the ways of Tianlong Wang. He is not Xuanwu, let alone catalyze, so he can't break Zhang Yi's dimensional door. Now he is just a loach trapped in a ground cage. Zhang Yi. Even if I die, I will make you pay the price. Tianlong Wang roared, his body covered in blood, but the high-energy particle beams in his 3 heads became more intense than ever. He didn't expect Zhang Yi to be so powerful, but this time he came here, he didn't think about living. As long as he can take revenge on Zhang Yi, it's enough for him. Even if I risk my life, I will break your defense. This is the deep sea. Imagine the pain of being crushed by billions of tons of seawater in an instant. Tianlong Wang really wanted to fight for his life. He even gave up all defenses and concentrated all his strength to launch the most powerful attack on Zhang Yi. At this moment, Zhang Yi said, "You can make a move." A delicate head suddenly popped out from the shadow behind him. Yang Xinxin suddenly appeared here. Behind her, the Angel of Desire slowly emerged, and the holy light enveloped her and Zhang Yi. Then the Angel of Desire drew his bow and aimed at Tianlong Wang, who was going to fight to the death. The arrow of love and desire. The sudden appearance of Yang Xinxin surprised Tianlong Wang, but he didn't care about the little girl at all, because he didn't feel any powerful power from Yang Xinxin. As long as it wasn't Epsilon, it wouldn't threaten his life. So much so that he didn't care about the red arrow that suddenly shot at him. Except Zhang Yi, no one can break his defense. All the eyes and hatred of the Dragon King were focused on Zhang Yi. Just when he was about to launch his most powerful attack, the red arrow quietly crossed the sea water and sank into his body. The Dragon King's body trembled violently, and the powerful force suddenly disappeared. An inexplicable feeling suddenly filled his heart. When he looked at the delicate girl who looked like a doll, he actually had an impulse to love her so much that he was willing to die for her. This is The Dragon King's eyes began to become blurred, and he struggled painfully, trying to get rid of this strange feeling. Yang Xinshin was a little surprised. Brother, his willpower is very strong. I can't seem to control him for too long. Zhang Yi hurriedly said, let him commit suicide. Yang Xinshin immediately said, Dragon King, kill yourself. The Dragon King's eyes showed an extremely painful and struggling look. His mind was extremely clear at this time. He knew what was done to him, but even if he knew everything, he could not break free from the shackles of this rule-based ability. Love spread like a bone-eating poison in his heart. At this moment, in his heart, the beautiful girl in front of him was everything in his life. Even if she ordered him to die immediately, he would be willing to do so as long as he could exchange her for a moment of joy. The eyes of the Dragon King shed painful tears, which was a cry of being unable to escape fate. Roar! He roared angrily in the endless deep sea.
Zhang Yi.
I hate it. Ha ha ha. Do you think everything will be over if you kill me? No, it won't. Sooner or later, you will end up like me. This is your destiny. You have been marked. You can't escape. You will definitely be caught by them, and then die more miserably than me. Zhang Yi's heart trembled. He didn't know what the Dragon King meant by these words, but faintly, the Star Island Abyss and the powerful black-armored monster emerged in his mind. At this time, the middle head of the Dragon King bit the left head fiercely, and the right head bit the middle head again, and so on. The three heads bit each other. Blood splashed in the deep sea, dyeing a large area of the sea red. The Dragon King's vitality was too strong. Even in this way of self-mutilation, his neck was bitten through, and the blood was almost drained. It took a long time for him to die completely. Zhang Yi was shocked. If he had made a plan in advance and relied on the power of Jingwei and Yang Xinshin, even if he could kill the Dragon King today, it would take a lot of time and even pay a certain price. The Epsilon-level aliens are already at another level in the life level, which can be called extraordinary. It's really too difficult to kill. After the death of the Dragon King, his huge body also restored the human form. Zhang Yi stretched out his hand and put his body into the alien space. At this moment, his back suddenly felt cold. In the endless dark ocean, it seemed as if something was secretly watching. Zhang Yi couldn't see what it was, but the bone-chilling cold was definitely real. He even felt that there was more than one such peeping gaze. Zhang Yi thought to himself, sure enough, in the era of great mutation, the giant beasts in the deep sea will only become more terrifying than land creatures. Without hesitation, he immediately hid in the shadow space when Yang Xinshin, and then activated the ability of Space Shuttle to quickly leave the deep sea. It was not until he left here that the feeling of peeping slowly disappeared. Zhang Yi returned to Tianhai City. At this time, the tide in Tianhai City was slowly receding, but nearly a quarter of the land was still submerged by the waves. A thick layer of ice had formed on the ground, reflecting a little bit of ice blue light under the night. Zhang Yi killed the Dragon King, which should have been a happy thing. But in Zhang Yi's mind, the words that the Dragon King said before his death echoed. He frowned, looking back at the vast and awe-inspiring ocean, and his mood could no longer be relaxed. Dear viewers, thanks for staying tuned. Please subscribe for more videos.